This was a story that I thought would never happen, a day I thought would never come. A story that began 19 years before that, when I realized that I was different from the other boys. Being a teenager is something that can be very, very awkward. Going through puberty, liking girls while our voice is cracking, feeling the rush of hormones that comes with our first crush. But there was one part in my story that was different. The very essence of what made me a boy didn't work. Simple as that. Little Ven was asleep and wouldn't wake up. Not just asleep, little Ven was in a coma. It's okay to chuckle. We've been conditioned as men, we've been conditioned as humans to laugh about our privates and not talk about it in public. No, we don't talk about our privates in public. But here, what I want to share with you is that it's okay to talk about it. Because when we don't talk about it, then we don't see it as being normal. And what I've gone through so many years accepting my condition as normal and not talking about it. So this hidden shame was something that lingered with me for so many years. And that really affected me. And that took me straight to the next part of my life, which was my party life. I ran right into the party scene. I remember seeing my sister going and losing all her party ambitions, left, right, and center, and having it been crushed by my dad, where my dad would say things like, "What? No party for you." Or he would say, "Those people you call friends, bad influences." But I devised ways to avoid these objections. I went, "Dad, Mom, I'm going out." And before my dad could do something about it, I replied, "To the temple." That never got an objection. So what they didn't know is right behind my house were 7 of my bad influences waiting for me in a stretch limousine going to the club. Needless to say, I was going to the temple every Friday night and sometimes Saturdays too. So the more my secret got dark on the inside, the more I made my life look bigger and brighter on the outside. I was the epitome of what every 18-year-old man wanted to be. My friends would approach me and say, "Brown sugar, I wish I had your life." And I would whisper, No, I promise you don't want to have my life. So little Ven spent most of his teenage and young adult years going through an asleep moment, a moment where he was in a coma. And no matter how much I tried to wake him up, it wouldn't wake up. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to laugh about it. Because that made me realize how much I wanted this to be normal while our society was still seeing this as a taboo topic. So I went through so much time together thinking about what to do with my situation. And what that led to me was a moment, a breakthrough. And it started at the age of 28. That was a turning point in my life. That was a point where my secret got so big, it became so powerful that my dream was to just run away from my family and everybody that I loved, to disappear. Because I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't. It was very, very difficult for me. And I remember that day, that at that time, I had the courage to actually get some help. And that had been the most powerful decision that I've ever done in my life. So I went to see a doctor. I was mortified, I was petrified, but the doctor was so kind and understandable. And he said, "Ven, we see this all the time, it's okay." And right with these few words, so much has been lifted off my shoulders. I felt so great. And in conversation with my doctor, I realized how much erectile dysfunction is something that can easily be cured with a simple pill in most situations. In my case, it was a bit more complicated. And we spent most of 2011 going through so many different treatments like pills, injections, acupuncture, even holistic solutions like breath work to bring the concentration of blood. We left no stones unturned. But all of these solutions failed. And at that point, little Ben was brought in a room and was put on a silver tray. And a lot of doctors were looking at my situation, and they were analyzing it, taking pictures, looking at it from side to side. Talk about the pressure to perform. But then my doctor came back to me. He looked at all the assessments. He also looked at my history, and he determined that because of my erectile dysfunction stemming from an injury, my only option was a surgery. At this point, I was willing to try anything. And I remember waking up from the surgery, and my doctor looked at me and asked him one question, and he nodded. Little Ben was no longer in a coma. I felt so good. I felt so great. I was ready to take Little Ben 2.0 and hit the town running. I said, put me in, coach, because I'm ready to play. So I was ready to go back into the town. I went in running right into a brick wall. First batter up, strike out. Second batter up, Little Ben, again, strike out. I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. How did I go through a surgery and still be back in the same situation that I was before my surgery? And I felt so bad, and I went up to the doctor and I said, Doctor, you said you were going to fix this. And he looked at me very calmly and he said, Ben, we did fix this. We did our part. We fixed the physical part. And now it's time for you to do your part. It's time to take this from the physical to the mental. You need to address the mental issue related to this. Now, you can imagine 28-year-old Ben thinking, what? Do you think I'm crazy? Oh my God. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to see a therapist. My name is Van. There is no way I'm seeing a therapist. 2 days later, at my first therapy session, I was standing right in front of a girl who looked just about my age, my therapist, Dr. Zofia. And right in front of us was a box of tissue. Seriously? I'm supposed to cry as well? So we went together and we spoke about different things. We explored different conversations like how I'll never be able to get married, how I'll never be able to have children, how I'll be a disappointment to my parents, my family, my community, my friends. And we went through so many different conversations, how I wanted to disappear from the people that I loved. And the more I talked about my erectile dysfunction, the more I realized that erectile dysfunction was not the only thing that was going on. This was about my entire life. The relationships with my family, my friends, my community, how I defined masculinity and being a man. And so we spoke, and the more we talked, the more I healed. And the more I healed, the more I was able to face my family, my friends, tell them exactly what my situation had been, what was my story. And I was able to redefine what it meant to be a man, sex, and masculinity. And that really transformed my life. That really made a big impact. So now I was at my final therapy session. My therapist looked at me, she said, Ben, you're ready. It's time for you to go out there and to find someone to share your life with. And she gave me my final tissue. So I was back in the dating scene, ready to bring out little Ben, ready to bring it out in a way that I haven't done before. This time there was no stretch limousine, there was no clubbing. I went online and I created a profile and I uploaded photos of me. And I swiped left, I swiped right, and I kept looking until I saw a girl that caught my smile. Her smile caught my heart. Her name was Aliona. And the way she smiled in her pictures, I just had that feeling that she was the one. And I was right. She was. So let's go back to the Taj Mahal, that moment where maybe we're talking about whether she said yes or no. But it wasn't just about her yes or her response. It was about reclaiming my life, taking myself out of the dark and into the light. And now you're probably wondering, did she say yes? Of course she did. Who wouldn't want a little bit of brown sugar? You're probably also wondering, how did little Ben do? I'm happy to report that little Ben is hitting home runs. And our families are very excited that I would add a third member to our team. Now, this is very important because as I looked at the stats online to see if this was only my story or the story of other people, I saw that Yale Medicine says that 1 out of 4 men under the age of 40 are affected by erectile dysfunction. The Massachusetts Male Aging Study, the biggest study of its kind, has said that 300 million men globally will be affected by erectile dysfunction by the year 2025. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of shame if we don't tackle this situation this way and accepting it as our normal. So it has been very difficult for me to share my story, but it's something that I want to do because this is no longer about my story. This is about taking myself from out of the dark and into the light so that if other people are going through that same story, that they know that there are hands waiting to grab theirs, that they also have a second chance to life, a second chance to have a happy ending. So if you feel that this story is something that resonates with you, please share it with someone you love and do this for me and little Ven. Thank you.